The morning sun cast long shadows across the golden wheat fields of New Haven as Jake Morrison stepped out of his small command center. He breathed in the fresh air and smiled at the sight of farmers already working in their fields. The colony had grown so much in the past 15 years since he first arrived as a young security officer. What started as a handful of prefab shelters had become a thriving community of 15,000. People spread across 3 continents. Jake walked toward the communications array where his deputy Lisa Park was reviewing the weekly supply reports. The orbital defense station above them was nothing fancy, just a few sensor arrays and some basic weapons that could handle pirates or asteroid threats. Most days Jake felt like he was overpaid for the amount of excitement his job provided. The colonists of New Haven lived peaceful lives, growing crops, raising families, and building something beautiful far from the chaos of Earth politics. "Morning, Jake," Lisa called out as she spotted him approaching. "The Henderson farm is reporting another record harvest. Their new irrigation system is working better than expected." Jake nodded and poured himself coffee from the thermal pot they kept running all day. "Good news. Any word from the monthly supply ship?" "Still on schedule. Captain Brooks should arrive next Tuesday with the medical supplies Dr. Martinez requested." The routine of colony life was comfortable and predictable. Jake had grown up on Earth in the crowded cities where millions of people lived stacked on top of each other. Here on New Haven, a person could walk for hours without seeing another soul if they wanted solitude. The air was clean, the water was pure, and the biggest crime in the past month had been someone stealing apples from their neighbor's orchard. Jake was reviewing patrol schedules when every alarm in the command center started screaming at once. Lisa jumped from her chair and began frantically checking her displays while Jake rushed to the main sensor console. What he saw there made his blood run cold. "Lisa, tell me these readings are wrong," he said quietly. She shook her head, her face pale. "Massive contacts dropping out of hyperspace. I count at least 12 ships, maybe more. They're huge, Jake, bigger than anything in our databases." Jake activated the colony-wide emergency broadcast system. His voice carried to every home, farm, and workplace on New Haven. "All residents, this is Commander Morrison. Unknown vessels have entered our system. This is not a drill. Please remain calm and stay near your emergency shelters until further." Notice, as the alien ships moved closer, their true size became apparent. The smallest was easily twice the length of Earth's largest military vessels. They had an organic appearance, like massive sea creatures swimming through space instead of engineered machines. Their hulls seemed to pulse with internal light, and their movement patterns were fluid and graceful. Jake tried every communication frequency he knew, broadcasting in dozens of languages. "Unknown vessels. This is New Haven Colony Defense. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." For several minutes, there was only silence. Then the main display flickered to life with an image that made Jake step backward. The being on the screen was humanoid, but clearly alien. Its skin had a blue-green tint, and its eyes were larger than human eyes, with no visible pupils. When it spoke, the words came through some kind of translation device. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of this world. I am Ambassador Keth of the Hegemony. We have traveled far to bring you a great gift." Jake found his voice and activated the two-way communication link. "Ambassador Keth, I am Commander Morrison. We welcome peaceful contact, but your arrival has caused concern among our people. What brings you to New Haven?" The alien tilted its head in what might have been amusement. "Your concern is understandable, Commander Morrison. Your species has not yet learned to recognize opportunity when it presents itself. We represent the greatest alliance in this galaxy, encompassing dozens of civilized worlds and countless billions of beings. We have come to extend an invitation for humanity to join our collective. That sounds interesting, Jake replied carefully. What would such membership involve? The hegemony provides structure, purpose, and guidance to younger species. Like yourselves. Under our leadership, humanity would contribute its unique capabilities to the greater good of all member races. Your people would be assigned roles suited to their abilities and temperament. War, poverty, and the chaos of independent governance would become distant memories. Jake felt a chill despite the warm morning air. And if humanity prefers to remain independent? Ambassador Keth's expression changed subtly. The translated voice took on a sharper tone. Commander Morrison, independence is a luxury that primitive species cannot afford. Your people spend their energy fighting each other instead of contributing to galactic civilization. Left to your own devices, you will inevitably destroy yourselves or become a threat to more advanced species. The hegemony has prevented such tragedies for over 1,000 years. I appreciate your concern for our welfare, Jake said, but the people of New Haven have chosen to live freely. We're not looking for outside guidance. The alien leaned forward on the screen. You misunderstand the nature of this conversation, Commander. This is not a negotiation between equals. Your species will join the hegemony. The only question is whether you do so willingly or require more direct persuasion. As if to emphasize the point, New Haven's orbital defense systems suddenly went dark. Every warning light on Jake's console flashed red as their weapons and shields powered down without any input from the human operators. Lisa frantically worked at her station, but nothing responded to her commands. A small demonstration, Ambassador Keth explained. Your defensive capabilities have been neutralized without harm to your personnel. We prefer peaceful integration when possible, but we are prepared for other approaches if necessary. Jake's hands clenched into fists, but he kept his voice steady. What exactly are you demanding? Your people will prepare for integration into the hegemony structure. We will begin assessment procedures to determine optimal placement for human capabilities. Some of your kind show promise as laborers. Others may serve in security roles. Your leaders will be evaluated for minor administrative positions under proper supervision. And our freedom? Our right to govern ourselves? Ambassador Keth made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. Freedom is an illusion that causes suffering, Commander. Under hegemony guidance, your people will know their purpose and find fulfillment in service to the greater good. You will understand in time. Jake cut the communication link and turned to Lisa, who is still trying to restore their systems. Around them, other technicians worked desperately at their stations, while alarms continued to sound. Any luck getting our defenses back online? He asked. Lisa shook her head. Whatever they did, it's beyond our ability to reverse. Jake, we're completely helpless up here. Those ships could destroy the colony, and we couldn't even slow them down. Jake, move to the emergency communication array, one of the few systems that still functioned. He began composing a message using old military codes that would identify the situation to any human ship that might receive it. The nearest Earth military base was 6 weeks away at best, but he had to try. This is New Haven colony to any human. Vessel, he broadcast toward Earth. We are under threat from hostile aliens, calling themselves the hegemony. Immediate assistance required. They have superior technology and overwhelming numbers. Colony population 15,000 civilians. As he finished the transmission, Ambassador Keth's image appeared on their screens again, without any action from the human operators. Commander Morrison, you have 48 hours to prepare your population for integration. Use this time wisely to help your people understand the benefits of cooperation. Resistance will only make the transition more difficult for everyone involved. The transmission ended, leaving Jake and his team staring at blank screens while the alien fleet took position. around their world like the bars of a cage. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in her laboratory, staring at the strange readings on her instruments. Every sensor array on New Haven was detecting energy patterns unlike anything in human scientific databases. The alien ships hung in space above them like sleeping giants, their organic hulls pulsing with soft light that followed no recognizable pattern. She had been the colony's chief scientist for 8 years, but nothing in her education had prepared her for this moment. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. Ambassador Keth appeared on her communication screen, the same blue-green creature that had delivered the ultimatum to Commander Morrison 12 hours earlier. This time, however, the alien's manner seemed almost friendly. Dr. Carter, I have reviewed your scientific credentials and find them adequate for basic discussion. I wish to educate you about the hegemony so that you might help your people understand the gift we offer. Lisa forced herself to remain calm. I'm willing to listen. Ambassador, perhaps you could start by telling me about your alliance. The alien settled back in what appeared to be a living chair that molded itself to his body. The hegemony began over 1,000 years ago when my people, the architects, first encountered another intelligent species. The Zalaray were a warrior race, primitive but possessing certain useful qualities. Rather than allow them to continue their destructive ways, we offered them structure and purpose under our guidance. And they accepted willingly? Lisa asked. The Ambassador Keth made a gesture that might have been a shrug. Initially, they resisted as your people do now. However, once they experienced the benefits of organized society, they became our most loyal supporters. Today, Zalari serve as security forces throughout hegemony space, finding fulfillment in protecting the peace we have created. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. How many species belong to your hegemony now? 34 distinct races have been welcomed into our collective over the centuries. Each contributes according to their natural abilities. The Corvan excel at detailed manufacturing work. The Hespari provide agricultural expertise. The Tethys maintain our computer networks with their enhanced neural processing capabilities. What happened to their original governments and cultures? The aliens' large eyes blinked slowly. Primitive governance systems inevitably lead to conflict and waste. Cultural practices that do not serve the greater good are gently discouraged in favor of more beneficial activities. Within a few generations, member species wonder how they ever survived without proper leadership. Lisa felt a chill despite the warm air in her laboratory. And if a species refuses to join your hegemony, such situations are tragic but rare. The architects have studied galactic history extensively. Dr. Carter, independent species either destroy themselves through warfare and environmental damage, or they become aggressive expansionists who threaten peaceful civilizations. We cannot allow either outcome. What about species that manage to live peacefully without your guidance? Ambassador Keth's expression grew patient, like a teacher explaining something obvious to a slow student. Dr. Carter, your own history demonstrates the impossibility of sustained peace without proper authority. Human records show centuries of warfare, genocide, and environmental destruction. Even now, your home world struggles with conflict and inequality. How many millions have died because humanity lacks the wisdom to accept necessary leadership? Lisa had to admit that human history was filled with violence and suffering. Earth had only achieved relative peace in recent decades, and even that, stability seemed fragile at times. Still, something about the alien's certainty disturbed her deeply. Perhaps our struggles have taught us valuable lessons, she suggested. Maybe conflict and freedom are prices worth paying for the right to determine our own future. The alien made that sound the translator interpreted as laughter. Freedom is a beautiful concept, Dr. Carter, but it is also an illusion. Your colonists believe they are free, Yet they follow Commander Morrison's orders without question. They work assigned tasks, live in designated areas, and accept resource distribution according to established protocols. The only difference between your current system and Hegemony membership is that we provide more efficient organization. But we chose this system ourselves. We can change it if we want. And therein lies the fundamental problem with primitive governance. Constant change prevents progress. Energy that should be directed toward advancement is wasted on debates and political struggles. Under Hegemony guidance, such inefficiencies are eliminated. Lisa spent the next hour learning more about the alien collective. The Hegemony operated under a rigid hierarchy, with the architects holding all major decision-making positions. Other species filled supporting roles based on their perceived capabilities and usefulness. The system had brought peace to dozens of worlds, but at the cost of individual choice and cultural diversity. What disturbed Lisa most was how reasonable Ambassador Keth made it all sound. The Hegemony did provide stability, prosperity, and an end to warfare among member species. Citizens were guaranteed food, shelter, and meaningful work. Crime was virtually non-existent, and everyone knew their place in society. Tell me about the assessment process you mentioned, Lisa said. Each individual will be evaluated for optimal placement within Hegemony structure. Physical capabilities, intellectual capacity, psychological profile, and social adaptability are all measured using proven methods. Most humans will likely serve in manufacturing or agricultural roles, though some may qualify for technical positions or security duties. And those who score highest on your evaluations? Exceptional individuals may be selected for advanced integration procedures. They receive enhanced neural interfaces that allow direct connection to Hegemony information networks. Such beings gain access to knowledge accumulated over centuries and find deep satisfaction in their expanded capabilities. Lisa realized she was learning about the mental conditioning that Commander Morrison had mentioned in his reports. The aliens were not just conquering civilizations. They were fundamentally altering the minds of those they deemed useful. What? About families? Will parents and children be assigned to the same locations? Ambassador Keth paused before answering. Family structures often create inefficiencies and emotional conflicts that impede optimal performance. Children are typically raised in specialized facilities where they receive proper education and socialization. Adults may maintain limited contact with biological relatives if such arrangements do not interfere with their assigned duties. The casual way the alien discussed separating families made Lisa's stomach turn. She began to understand that the Hegemony's version of peace came at a price that no free being should be willing to pay. I think I've heard enough for now, Ambassador. Thank you for the information. I hope our discussion helps you convince your people to embrace this opportunity. Dr. Carter, the integration process is much easier when populations cooperate willingly. Resistance only prolongs the inevitable and causes unnecessary suffering. After the transmission ended, Lisa sat alone in her laboratory, trying to process everything she had learned. The Hegemony was not evil in any traditional sense. They genuinely believed they were helping primitive species achieve better lives. Their methods had brought peace and prosperity to billions of beings across the galaxy. But the cost was everything that made life worth living. Freedom, choice, family bonds, cultural identity, and individual dreams would all be sacrificed on the altar of efficient organization. The colonists of New Haven faced a future where they would become worker units in a vast machine, their humanity. Gradually erased by alien programming. Lisa activated her personal communication device and contacted Commander Morrison. They had 36 hours remaining before the Hegemony began their integration procedures. If humanity was going to resist, they needed to start planning immediately. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance watching the stars streak past as his ship raced toward the new Haven system. The Battleship was humanity's most advanced warship, a kilometer of steel and weapons built during the Paranoid. Years when Earth's military leaders feared alien contact might not be peaceful. Most politicians had called the project wasteful spending on imaginary threats. Now those same leaders were grateful that someone had prepared for the worst. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, while the ship's artificial intelligence processed incoming data streams. Lieutenant Commander Kate Williams monitored communications while Chief Engineer Sam Parker kept watch over the massive fusion reactors that powered their journey. Every person aboard the Defiance had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not return home. "Captain, we're receiving updated intelligence from the new Haven Relay Beacon," Williams reported. "The alien fleet has grown to over 50 ships of various sizes. They've positioned themselves in a defensive sphere around the planet." Hayes nodded while studying the tactical display. The hegemony ships showed up as red dots surrounding the blue marker that represented New Haven. His own vessel appeared as a single green point racing toward overwhelming odds. "What do we know about their capabilities, Sam?" Hayes asked his chief engineer. Parker consulted his datapad before answering. "Their ships appear to use organic technology, Captain. Hull materials that can self-repair, energy systems that adapt to different power requirements, and weapons that change configuration based on targets. It's like they grow their ships instead of building them. Any weaknesses in their design? Hard to say without seeing them in action. The organic approach gives them flexibility, but it also means they can't quickly modify their basic systems. Our ships are modular. We can swap out weapons, shields, and sensors as needed. Their ships are more like living creatures that take time to evolve new capabilities." Hayes had spent weeks studying every piece of data about the hegemony that human intelligence could gather. The aliens had dominated their region of the galaxy for centuries using superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They specialized in quick conquests of primitive civilizations that lacked the capability to mount effective resistance. What troubled Hayes most was how the aliens thought about warfare. Every species they had conquered had fought in predictable patterns, massed formations, direct assaults, and conventional tactics that made sense to military theorists. The hegemony had developed countermeasures for every traditional approach to combat, but humans had spent centuries fighting each other in ways that defied military logic. They used deception, improvisation, and tactics that sacrificed efficiency for unpredictability. Human military doctrine emphasized adaptation over standardization, individual initiative over rigid command structures. "Kate, any word from Earth? Command about reinforcements?" Hayes asked. Williams shook her head. "Negative, Captain. The nearest battle group is 8 weeks away. Admiral Thompson sends his regards and wishes us good hunting." Hayes smiled grimly at the message. Earth's military leadership understood that the Defiance would face the alien fleet alone. If humanity's most advanced warship could not handle 50 enemy vessels, then additional ships would only provide more targets for alien weapons. The captain walked to the forward viewport and stared out at the stars ahead. Somewhere in that direction, 15,000 human colonists waited for rescue, while alien conquerors prepared to strip away their freedom and identity. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than the ship's artificial gravity. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from New Haven," Williams announced. "It's Commander Morrison with an update on the situation." The main screen flickered to life, showing Jake Morrison's tired face. The colony commander looked like he had not slept since the aliens arrived. Behind him, other colonists worked frantically at communication equipment while alarm lights flashed in the background. "Captain Hayes, thank God you received our signal. The situation here is deteriorating rapidly. The aliens have begun taking colonists aboard their ships for what they call assessment procedures. Some have returned, but they're different. They keep talking about the benefits of joining the hegemony and urging the rest of us to cooperate willingly. Hayes leaned forward in his command chair. How many people have they taken? 47 so far, mostly community leaders and technical specialists. Dr. Carter thinks they're using some kind of mental conditioning process. The people who come back still remember who they are, but their personalities have changed completely. They seem happy about the prospect of losing their freedom. Any indication of their timeline for full integration? Morrison checked his notes before answering. Ambassador Keth says they'll wait another 18 hours for willing cooperation. After that, they'll begin forced processing of the entire population. Captain, these people came here to build something better than what they left behind on Earth. They don't deserve to become slaves to alien masters. Understood, Commander. The Defiance will arrive in approximately 14 hours. Tell your people to hold out a little longer. Captain, you should know that their fleet has grown significantly since we sent the first distress call. Our sensors count at least 50 major vessels, some of them larger than anything in our databases. Are you sure one ship can handle those odds? Hayes smiled with more confidence than he felt. Commander, the Defiance wasn't built to fight fair. Battles. We'll find a way to even the odds. Hayes out. After the transmission ended, Hayes called his senior officers to the bridge briefing room. The small space filled with the ship's department heads as they gathered around a holographic display showing the New Haven system. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to face the largest fleet engagement in human history. Hayes began. The enemy has numerical superiority, technological advantages, and centuries of experience conquering primitive civilizations. They expect us to behave like every other species they've encountered, predictable tactics, conventional weapons, and honorable. Defeat when overwhelmed. Chief Weapons Officer Tony Martinez spoke up. What's our actual plan, Captain? We're going to show them why humans are the only species crazy enough to spend centuries perfecting the art of killing each other. Every dirty trick, every improvised tactic, and every unconventional weapon system aboard this ship will be used to maximum effect. Hayes activated the tactical display showing the alien fleet positions. The hegemony fights like a military organization, structured formations, coordinated attacks, and predictable responses to threats. We're going to fight like pirates, terrorists, and every other desperate group that ever faced impossible odds and won through sheer bloody-minded stubbornness. The meeting continued for 2 hours as the officers planned their assault. They would have one chance to surprise the alien fleet before the enemy adapted to human tactics. Everything depended on making that first strike count while demonstrating that humanity would never accept conquest without a fight that the galaxy would remember for centuries to come. The USS Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Haven system with a flash of energy that lit up every sensor array within 1,000,000 kilometers. The massive battleship emerged from the twisted dimensions of faster than light. Travel like a steel predator stepping into a forest clearing. Its arrival sent gravitational waves rippling through space that registered on instruments, both human and alien. On the bridge, Captain Hayes watched as his tactical display updated with new contacts. The hegemony fleet hung in space around New Haven like a protective shell, their organic ships pulsing with soft bioluminescent patterns. 53 vessels of various sizes faced his single warship across the dark void between worlds. All stations report ready for combat, Captain. Lieutenant Commander Williams announced from her position at the communications console. Hayes nodded and activated the ship's external speakers. His voice would carry across space on multiple frequencies, ensuring that every vessel in the system could hear his words clearly. Attention Hegemony Fleet. This is Captain Ryan Hayes of the United Earthship Defiance. You have entered human space without permission and threatened the lives of 15,000 innocent civilians. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw from this system and never return. This is your only warning." The response came within minutes as Ambassador Keth's image appeared on the main screen. The alien's blue-green features showed what might have been amusement at the human captain's bold demand. "Captain Hayes, I am impressed by your courage in coming here alone to face our fleet. However, your gesture is meaningless. One primitive vessel cannot hope to challenge the combined might of the hegemony. I offer you the opportunity to surrender gracefully and spare your crew unnecessary suffering." Hayes leaned back in his command chair with a slight smile. "Ambassador Keth, I appreciate your concern for my crew's welfare, but I'm afraid I must decline your generous offer. You see, the people of New Haven didn't invite you to their world, and they've made it clear they want you to leave. I'm here to help them with that request." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly as he processed the human's words. "Captain, your ship is impressive by primitive standards, but our sensors indicate you carry fewer than 800 crew members. Our fleet contains over 40,000 trained warriors from a dozen different species. Even if your weapons were equal to ours, which they are not, you would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers." "That's an interesting theory, Ambassador. Would you like to test it?" Ambassador Keth made that sound the translator rendered as laughter. "Captain Hayes, the hegemony has conquered 34 different species over the past millennium. We have faced every type of resistance that primitive minds can devise. Your tactics, whatever they may be, have already been encountered and defeated countless times before." Hayes stood up and walked closer to the screen so the alien could see his face clearly. "You know, Ambassador, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. The thing about humans is that we've spent the last few thousand years fighting each other with every dirty trick we could think of. We've gotten very good at it." The alien fleet began moving into attack formation while Hayes spoke. Their ships formed a classic engagement pattern designed to bring maximum firepower to bear while maintaining protective formations. It was textbook military tactics that would have impressed any war college instructor. "Your hour begins now, Ambassador," Hayes said before cutting the communication link. Chief Engineer Parker looked up from his console with concern written across his face. "Captain, their lead ships are moving to intercept. Energy readings suggest they're charging weapon systems. Let them come, Sam. Kate, open a channel to New Haven and patch it through to the colony's emergency broadcast system." Hayes turned toward the communication station as Williams established the link. "Commander Morrison, this is Captain Hayes aboard the Defiance. We're about to engage the alien fleet. I want every colonist to hear what happens next, so they understand that humanity doesn't surrender to bullies." The tactical display showed hegemony ships spreading out in a wide formation designed to surround the lone human vessel. Their movement patterns were precise and coordinated, the result of centuries of successful conquests against technologically inferior opponents. "All hands, this is the captain," Hayes announced over the ship's internal communication system. "We're about to show these aliens why humans are the only species crazy enough to pick fights with impossible odds and somehow win. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget." The first alien ships came within weapons range and immediately opened fire. Streams of coherent energy lanced across space toward the Defiance, each beam carrying enough power to vaporize a city block. The human ship's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the incoming attack, dispersing the energy across their electromagnetic grid. Hayes watched calmly as his ship shook under the cone. Alien bombardment. The Defiance had been built to withstand punishment that would destroy lesser vessels. Her shields held firm, while the ship's artificial intelligence analyzed the enemy weapons and calculated optimal response patterns. Weapons Officer Martinez. "Return fire," Hayes ordered. "Let's see how they handle our welcome gift." The Defiance unleashed its first salvo with devastating precision. Tungsten slugs accelerated to significant fractions of light speed by electromagnetic. Railguns struck 3 alien vessels simultaneously. The kinetic projectiles punched through organic hulls like bullets through tissue paper, causing massive decompression and structural damage. At the same time, plasma cannons sent streams of superheated matter toward other targets, while particle beam weapons created focused torrents of exotic radiation. The combination attack hit the hegemony fleet from multiple directions using weapon types they had never encountered before. Ambassador Kef's image reappeared on the screen, but his calm demeanor had been replaced by obvious shock. "Captain Hayes, your weapons technology is more advanced than our initial assessments indicated. However, you cannot hope to defeat our entire fleet with a single ship." "You're probably right, Ambassador," Hayes replied. "Good thing I don't plan to fight fair." The captain turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for the asteroid belt. Maximum acceleration." "Chief Parker, I want everything our engines can give us." The Defiance suddenly changed direction and raced toward the inner system, where millions of space rocks orbited the local star. The alien fleet moved to pursue, their organic ships flowing through space like a school of predatory fish chasing smaller prey. But as they entered the cluttered environment near the asteroids, the hegemony commanders realized they were no longer the hunters. They had become the prey in a trap that human ingenuity had been preparing for centuries. The asteroid belt around New Haven Star became a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The USS Defiance weaved between massive space rocks with precision that seemed impossible for such a large vessel, while the hegemony fleet followed in pursuit like a pack of hunters chasing wounded prey. Captain Hayes stood calmly on his bridge, watching the tactical display as his plan began to unfold. "Chief Parker, activate the tractor beam array," Hayes ordered. "I want you to grab that asteroid at coordinates 7-7-Mark-4 and accelerate it toward the lead hegemony ships." The chief engineer's fingers danced across his console as the Defiance's powerful tractor beams locked onto a space rock the size of a city block. The ship's fusion reactors strained to provide the enormous energy required to move such massive objects. But human engineering had built the systems to handle impossible demands. The asteroid suddenly changed course and rocketed toward 3 alien vessels that were trying to flank the human battleship. The hegemony commanders had never encountered tactics that used celestial bodies as weapons, and their ships were too close together to avoid the improvised missile. The massive rock struck the first vessel with the force of a nuclear explosion, crushing its organic hull and sending debris spinning through space. "Direct hit on target 1, Lieutenant Commander Williams reported. 2 additional ships are showing severe damage from secondary impacts." Ambassador Keth's image appeared on the main screen, his blue-green features twisted with anger and confusion. "Captain Hayes, your tactics violate every civilized principle of warfare. Using asteroids as weapons shows the primitive savagery we seek to eliminate from the galaxy." Hayes laughed while his ship continued its deadly dance through the asteroid field. "Ambassador, you came to my people's world, threatening to destroy their freedom and identity. You don't get to lecture me about civilized behavior while you're trying to enslave innocent civilians." The alien fleet began spreading out to avoid further asteroid attacks, but this played directly into Hayes' strategy. Scattered ships could not provide mutual support, and the cluttered environment prevented them from using their numerical advantage effectively. The Defiance continued moving through the space rocks like a shark through coral reefs, striking at isolated targets before disappearing behind cover. Weapons Officer Martinez, prepare the nuclear mines, Hayes commanded. I want them deployed along the patrol routes our computer has calculated for the enemy fleet. Tony Martinez worked at his console with the focused intensity of a man who understood that failure meant death for everyone aboard the ship. Mines armed and ready for deployment, Captain. The AI has identified 17 optimal locations based on hegemony movement patterns. The Defiance released its deadly cargo while continuing to engage alien ships with conventional weapons. The nuclear devices were small but powerful, designed to detonate when enemy vessels came within range. Each mine contained enough explosive force to cripple even the largest hegemony ships if positioned correctly. Prime Overseer Vex, the alien fleet commander, appeared on Hayes' screen with multiple species representing the hegemony coalition behind him. The various aliens looked confused and frightened by tactics they had never encountered in centuries of easy conquests. Human Captain, you fight without honor or discipline, Vex declared through his translation device. Your species proves why. Primitive civilizations require proper guidance. We offer you one final chance to surrender before we demonstrate our full military capabilities. Prime Overseer, I appreciate the offer, Hayes replied while dodging between two massive asteroids. But I'm curious about something. In all your centuries of conquering other species, has anyone ever fought back this hard? The alien commander hesitated before answering. Resistance is always futile against hegemony superiority. Your current success is temporary and will end when we adapt our tactics to counter your primitive deceptions. That's what I thought, Hayes said with a grin. Sam, execute Phase 2 of our battle plan. Chief Engineer Parker activated systems that had been charging in secret while the battle raged. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt were gravitational pulse generators that the Defiance had deployed during its approach to the system. The devices created massive space-time distortions that pulled nearby objects toward predetermined locations. Suddenly, dozens of large asteroids began moving toward the scattered hegemony ships from multiple directions. The aliens found themselves trapped between converging walls of rock that offered no escape routes. Their organic vessels, designed for graceful movement through open space, could not maneuver quickly enough to avoid the closing trap. All ships retreat to safe distance, Prime Overseer Vex ordered frantically. Regroup at coordinates 917 for coordinated assault. But Hayes had anticipated this response as well. As the alien fleet tried to withdraw from the asteroid field, they triggered the nuclear mines that had been waiting in their projected escape routes. Brilliant flashes of atomic fire lit up space as ship after ship suffered catastrophic damage from the hidden explosives. Captain, enemy fleet strength is down to 60%, Williams reported. Multiple vessels are showing critical damage, and several appear to be abandoning ship. Hayes opened communications to the surviving hegemony. Vessels, Prime Overseer Vex, this is your final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately, or face complete destruction. Your choice. The alien commander's image showed fear for the first time since the battle began. Behind him, other hegemony officials were speaking rapidly in their native languages, while damaged ships limped toward the edge of the system. Captain Hayes, the hegemony will remember this encounter. Your species has revealed its true nature through these dishonorable tactics. We will return with greater numbers and proper preparations for your savage methods. You do that, Prime Overseer, Hayes replied calmly. But when you come back, remember that humanity has had thousands of years to perfect the art of killing. Things that threaten our freedom. We've gotten very good at it. The remaining alien ships began their retreat toward the edge of the system, their hulls scarred and their crews demoralized by tactics they had never imagined possible. The hegemony had learned that some prey were more dangerous than their predators realized. On New Haven's surface, 15,000 colonists watched through telescopes and sensor displays as their would-be conquerors fled into deep space. Commander. Morrison activated the colony-wide communication system to address his people. Citizens of New Haven, the alien threat has been eliminated. Captain Hayes and the crew of the USS Defiance have reminded the galaxy that humanity will never surrender its freedom without a fight that our enemies will remember for generations to come. In space above the colony, the USS Defiance slowly emerged from the asteroid belt with its hull scarred but victorious. Captain Hayes looked out at the stars and knew that news of this battle would spread throughout the galaxy, carrying a simple message to any species that might threaten human independence. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same.